Lauren Hayes had learned to smile through the nonsense. 5 years in Pinecrest Estates, and the HOA still treated her like the new kid who didn't know the sacred bylaws. Her sleek modern house, paid in cash from the interior design consulting firm she'd grown from a laptop on her kitchen counter to 50 employees, sat perfectly within the beige and gray color palette Karen Whitmore had decreed. The lawn was mowed to the exact 2-inch height every Sunday at dawn. No political flags, no visible solar panels, no bird feeders that might distract from curb appeal. Lauren had paid the fines for 3 elderly neighbors when their grass hit 2¼ inches. She'd quietly wired money to cover the community center roof repair after a storm because the HOA treasury was mysteriously short. She'd even organized the annual Thanksgiving block party for the last 3 years, footing the entire bill while Karen stood at the microphone thanking the generous community spirit. Everyone clapped. Nobody asked who wrote the check. This year Lauren had gone bigger. Organic turkeys from a local farm, artisanal pies, string lights that turned the cul-de-sac into a warm golden glow, a shuttle van for seniors who couldn't drive at night, even a live acoustic guitarist, because Karen had once complained that recorded music lowered property values. The total came to almost $40,000 out of Lauren's pocket. She told herself it was an investment in peace. Maybe if they saw her giving, the endless citations would stop. Maybe Karen would finally stop calling her that tech girl who thinks rules don't apply. The cul-de-sac was already buzzing when Lauren arrived at 5 sharp. Heels clicking on the freshly swept asphalt. Tables draped in cream linen. Centerpieces of gourds and autumn leaves she had personally selected and paid for. Residents milled around with plastic cups of spice cider. Karen Whitmore stood at the head table like a queen, pearl necklace gleaming, clipboard in hand, smile plastered on so tight it looked painful. "Lauren, darling," she cooed, voice dripping honey, "we're so grateful you could join us, even with your busy career." The pause before career was tiny but sharp, the way a stiletto heel can be. Lauren took her seat. The place card was right there. Elegant cream stock with gold edging she herself had chosen weeks ago. But instead of Lauren Hayes in the calligraphy she had approved, someone had printed in perfect looping script, HOA Outcast. The snickers started immediately. Old Mr. Peterson wheezed a laugh. Karen's best friend Denise covered her mouth theatrically. "Oh my, who on earth would do such a thing?" Karen said, eyes wide with fake innocence. "It's just a little joke. Lauren, lighten up. You know how we like to tease the ones who bend the rules now and then." Lauren picked up the card, thumb tracing the raised letters. The same cardstock, the same gold edges. This wasn't a prank. It was premeditated. She had driven the shuttle herself that morning, coordinated every dietary restriction, paid the caterers in full. Yet here she sat, labeled for the entire neighborhood to see. The envelope in her blazer pocket suddenly felt heavier. Inside were documents that would have changed everything. Checks, wire confirmations, trust papers totaling $850,000. HOA legal fee payoff, $247,000. New playground equipment and safety surfacing, $200,000. College funds for 5 neighborhood kids whose parents she'd quietly helped for years. Mortgage assistance for the Millers and the Garcias, who'd been drowning in HOA fines they couldn't fight. Seed money for a community solar co-op she knew Karen would never approve, but the residents desperately needed. All of it printed on heavy cream paper with gold embossing, ready to hand over during the toast. She set the card back down exactly centered in front of her plate. "Should I move?" she asked, voice calm as still water. "Since this seat is apparently reserved for the outcast." Karen waved a manicured hand. "Don't be dramatic, dear. It's just our way of reminding everyone that we all have to follow the same rules, even the ones who think they're above them." The table chuckled on cue. Lauren smiled the small boardroom smile she used when about to close a seven-figure deal. She reached for her water glass and took a slow sip. The envelope pulsed against her ribs like a second heartbeat. They thought they knew her, the quiet one, the one who paid up and shut up. They had no idea what she had already set in motion. As the guitars started strumming and plates began to fill, Lauren's mind drifted back through the years of tiny cuts. The first citation for her non-approved welcome mat, beige only. They said. The time Karen personally measured her lawn at dusk and left a pink violation notice taped to her door because one blade allegedly exceeded 2 inches. The neighborhood outpost that always seemed to target her house. Certain residents need to remember this is a community, not a personal fiefdom. Each time Lauren had paid the fine, fixed the issue, kept her mouth shut, and each time she had quietly helped someone else, covering misses. Alvarez's fine when her rosebush dared to grow an inch too high. Wiring money for the community center AC repair because the treasury was low on funds again. Karen never mentioned those transfers. She just smiled wider at the meetings and thanked the generous spirit of Pinecrest. Tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight Lauren had planned to stand up during dessert, hand over the envelope, and watch the neighborhood finally see her as more than the outsider. She had rehearsed the words, "I believe in this community, and I want to make sure we're all secure." Naive. The place card had clarified everything in elegant gold script. They didn't want her gifts. They wanted her in her assigned role, paying, silent, grateful to be tolerated. David, no. Here it was Mr. Hargrove, Karen's husband, launched into a story about his latest golf victory. The table's attention drifted. Lauren's fingers brushed the envelope again. She recalculated, reassessed, reimagined how this evening would end. The weight of 5 years of quiet endurance shifted into something sharper, colder, and far more satisfying. They thought they knew the woman who always paid the bills. They were about to meet the woman who could burn them. The guitarist finished his set, and the caterers began clearing salad plates. Karen stood, tapping her glass with a spoon for attention. Before we move to the main course, I just want to thank everyone for making Pinecrest the jewel of the suburbs. And a special thanks to Lauren for organizing things this year. The pause again, the tiny dig. Polite applause rippled around the tables. Lauren kept her face neutral, but inside the decision had crystallized. She rose slowly, envelope in one hand, the offending place card in the other. Conversation died as 30 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Karen's smile faltered for half a second, long enough for Lauren to see the fear flicker behind pearls. "Everything okay, dear?" Karen asked, voice still syrupy, but now edged with warning. "Perfect," Lauren said. "Absolutely perfect." She held the gold envelope up so the Edison bulbs caught the metallic sheen. Then she began to tear, slow, deliberate, the sound of heavy paper ripping cutting through the cul-de-sac like a whip crack. The first document slid out, the HOA legal fee payoff statement, Boston Financial letterhead blazing. She held it for 2 heartbeats so everyone could read "paid in full," then tore it cleanly in half. The rip echoed off the houses. Karen's hand flew to her pearls. "Lauren, what on earth?" Next came the playground trust papers, each child's name printed in crisp black ink. Lauren tore through them one by one, letting the pieces flutter onto the white tablecloth like expensive snow. The Miller's mortgage payoff gone. The Garcia's assistance package, shredded. The solar co-op seed money, confetti. $850,000 reduced to a glittering pile of cream and gold scraps right beside the centerpiece she had paid for. She placed the HOA Outcast card gently on top like a headstone. The cul-de-sac was dead silent except for the distant hum of the string lights and one neighbor's fork clattering to the ground. Karen's face had gone the color of old milk. Those were community funds, she whispered, voice cracking for the first time anyone could remember. Lauren met her eyes. They were going to be, until the community decided exactly where I belong. She pushed her chair in with perfect etiquette, smiled the same calm, professional smile she used to close million-dollar contracts, and walked toward her car parked at the curb. Behind her, the explosion started. Gasps. Shouts. Karen's shrill, "Wait. We can tape them." Think of the children. But Lauren didn't turn around. The November air felt clean, honest, free of the invisible leash the HOA had tried to keep around her neck for 5 years. She slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and left the golden glow of the party behind. In the rearview mirror, she could see shadows scrambling. Someone already on their knees gathering scraps of paper like they could be stitched back together. Her phone began buzzing before she even reached the neighborhood gate. First Karen, then the HOA group chat, then Denise, then half the board. She let it ring. By the time she pulled in her driveway 3 blocks away, still inside Pinecrest, but suddenly feeling miles from the drama, she had already switched it to airplane mode. The house was dark and quiet, the way she liked it. Lauren poured herself a glass of the good Cabernet she had been saving for a celebration that would never happen now. Sat at her kitchen island and opened her laptop. One photo waited in her camera roll. The place card, time-stamped, HOA Outcast in Karen's daughter's unmistakable calligraphy. She smiled, small and sharp. The counteroffensive had just begun. The next morning, the neighborhood app, official HOA communication channel, lit up like a Christmas tree on fire. Karen's post went live at 7:03 a.m. Shocking behavior at last night's community event. Lauren Hayes, who graciously helped organize, suffered what appeared to be a complete meltdown and destroyed documents intended for neighborhood improvements totaling over $850,000. We are all devastated. Please keep our community in your thoughts and prayers during this difficult time. Mental health matters. The comments poured in. Unstable. She always seemed off. We need to protect our property values from people like this. Karen had tagged Lauren's design firm in the post, just in case anyone missed the point. Lauren read every word while sipping coffee on her patio. The same patio Karen had once cited for non-compliant planter size. She had spent the night compiling 5 years of receipts, every fine she had paid for neighbors, every wire transfer to the community center, every contractor invoice for repairs the HOA treasury couldn't cover. The crown jewel was the photo of the place card. Timestamp intact. Handwriting verified by a forensic examiner she had hired at 2 a.m. through an emergency service. She forwarded everything to her lawyer, Catherine, with one line, "I'm ready. Let's set the record straight." By noon, the local business journal had reached out. They had been following her firm's growth for years. The reporter was thorough. Lauren gave him everything, not just the financial trail, but the context, 5 years of petty citations, manipulated votes, Karen's private group chat screenshots she had obtained through a sympathetic board member who finally had enough. The article dropped Tuesday morning. Tech CEO's $850,000 Thanksgiving gift shredded after being labeled HOA Outcast, the receipt that's shaking Pinecrest Estates. The place card photo ran above the fold. Karen's app post quoted verbatim beneath it. The contradictions were damning. The neighborhood chat exploded in a different direction. Residents who had stayed silent for years suddenly found their voices. Mrs. Alvarez posted the receipt Lauren had paid for her roof. The Millers shared screenshots of the mortgage assistance Lauren had quietly wired every month. Even Mr. Hargrove, Karen's own husband, liked one of the posts before quickly unliking it. Karen tried damage control. Emergency board meeting called for Thursday night to discuss the recent unpleasantness. But the tide had already turned. Lauren didn't attend the meeting. She didn't need to. A friend live texted the entire thing. Karen arrived in her best power suit, pearls shining, ready to deliver a sermon on community unity. The first motion on the table was to remove the HOA Outcast post and issue a public apology. Karen sputtered, "This is ridiculous. We can't let one person's tantrum dictate policy." But the vote was unanimous, 7-0. Karen's face when her own vice president read the motion aloud was something Lauren would treasure forever. The exact shade of a lawn that had just received its third violation notice. The real collapse started the next day. Someone, Lauren never found out who, leaked Karen's private text thread to the entire neighborhood. Years of messages calling certain residents trash for daring to fly a small rainbow flag in June, mocking the Garcias accents, calculating exactly how many fines they could levy before people sold and left. The screenshots spread faster than the original smear. Residents who had lived in fear of pink violation notices began photographing Karen's own house, the backyard shed she had painted without approval, the extra Christmas lights that stayed up until March, the lawn that mysteriously stayed at 2¼ inches whenever the inspector came. The board had no choice. An emergency recall vote was scheduled. Karen's reign, 10 years of iron-fisted beige, ended in 17 minutes. Lauren watched from her living room window as the official notice was taped to Karen's door the following Monday. The woman who had once measured lawns with a ruler now stood on her own porch in yoga pants, pearls replaced by stunned silence, reading the words "removed for cause" in black and white. For the first time in years, the cul-de-sac felt lighter. Bird feeders appeared overnight. A small rainbow flag fluttered from the Alvarez porch. Children rode bikes without fear of being cited for excessive noise. Lauren's phone buzzed again, this time with thank yous. Sophia from 2 doors down sent a video of her daughter finally playing on the new playground equipment that would be installed next month thanks to the trust Lauren had quietly kept intact despite the shredding. "You didn't have to do any of it," the text read. "But you did. Thank you for teaching us we don't have to take it anymore." The practical consequences rolled in like dominoes. Karen's real estate license. Yes, she sold houses on the side while ruling the HOA. Suddenly dried up. 3 listings pulled within a week after buyers read the Journal article. Her husband started sleeping in the guest room. The country club friends who had once toasted her dedication to standards stopped returning calls. By the end of the month, the for sale sign appeared in Karen's yard, priced aggressively because, as the listing agent whispered, "The neighborhood has changed." Lauren drove past it every morning on her way to the office. Windows down, music loud, smiling at the irony of the woman who had spent a decade enforcing perfect conformity, now forced to leave because the community finally refused to conform to her. But the sweetest part wasn't Karen's departure. It was what grew in the space she left behind. A new board formed, younger, more diverse, actually elected instead of self-appointed. The first order of business: rewrite the bylaws. No more measuring lawns with rulers. No more color police. Solar panels welcomed. Flags celebrated. The neighborhood app became a place for actual neighborly help instead of anonymous snitching. Lauren's firm designed the new community center pro bono, modern, bright, with a playground that actually let kids be kids. The opening ceremony drew the entire street. No place cards. No outcast labels. Just people laughing under string lights that stayed up year-round because nobody was left to complain. Lauren kept the framed place card in her office, right between her degrees and the Tech Weekly cover that had once made Karen seethe. Clients asked about it constantly. She told the story the same way every time. It was the most honest thing the HOA ever gave me. It showed me exactly where I stood. So I knew it was time to stop standing there. Visitors laughed the uneasy laugh of people who recognized their own silent endurance in the tale. Some left with straighter shoulders. One young couple from 3 streets over-admitted they had been saving to move because of the constant fines. "After your story, we stayed and fought the old rules instead," they said. Lauren wired them the first year's dues as a housewarming gift. No strings. No place cards. The messages from strangers started next. A woman in Arizona whose HOA had fined her for a vegetable garden. A man in Florida whose board banned his veteran flag. Each story echoed the same theme. People quietly funding the very systems that punished them until one day they stopped. HOA Outcast trended for a week. People posted photos of their own humiliating notices. Torn up checks. Quiet rebellions. Lauren never asked for the attention, but she answered every single message. "You don't have to buy a seat at a table that was never built for you," she wrote back again and again. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stand up, tear up the paperwork, and walk away. By spring, the transformation was complete. Karen's old house sold to a young family who immediately painted the front door a cheerful red, previously a $500 fine offense. The new owners sent Lauren a thank you basket and a note. We read the article. "Thank you for making this neighborhood one we actually want to raise kids in." Lauren smiled, tucked the note into the frame beside the place card, and poured herself another glass of that good Cabernet. The cul-de-sac glowed with string lights that no one would ever dare remove again. Somewhere across town, Karen was probably measuring a new lawn in a new subdivision. Clipboard in hand, pearls still shining, already looking for the next outcast. But in Pinecrest Estates, the rules had finally changed because one woman had refused to follow them anymore. The last unexpected gift arrived on a quiet Thursday evening. Lauren's doorbell rang. On the porch stood Sophia's daughter, the same little girl whose college fund Lauren had protected even after the shredding. She held a handmade card, no calligraphy, no gold edges, just crayon and glitter. Inside it read, "Thank you for teaching me that outcasts can rewrite the whole story. Love, the new neighborhood." Lauren knelt, hugged the girl tight, and felt the last thread of 5 years' tension finally snap. Not with anger, not with triumph, just with the quiet certainty of someone who had finally stopped trying to earn a seat at a table that was never going to welcome her, and in doing so had built a better table for everyone else. She closed the door, walked back to her office, and looked at the framed place card one more time. The gold letters still gleamed under the lamp. HOA Outcast. She smiled, touched the glass gently, and whispered to the empty room, "Best $850,000 I never spent." Then she turned off the light, poured one last glass of wine, and stepped out onto the patio to watch the string lights twinkle over a neighborhood that finally felt like home. The story didn't end with Karen's moving truck pulling away on a rainy Tuesday in April. It kept rippling outward in ways Lauren could never have predicted. The local news picked up the Journal article and turned it into a 3-minute segment titled, "When HOA Power Goes Too Far." Suddenly, residents from 3 counties were sharing their own horror stories on morning talk shows. One elderly couple in the next suburb mailed Lauren a check for $237, the exact amount they had been fined over the years for excessive holiday lighting. They included a note, "We saw what you did. We're done paying for fear." Lauren deposited it into a new fund she quietly started, the Pinecrest Freedom Account, seed money for anyone fighting absurd HOA citations. Within 6 weeks, it held almost $30,000, all from neighbors who had finally found their voices. Even the state legislature noticed. A young assemblywoman from the district contacted Lauren for testimony on a proposed bill limiting HOA fine amounts and requiring transparent elections. Lauren drove to the Capitol wearing the same heels she had worn the night she shredded the documents. She placed the framed place card on the witness table and told the committee the same story she now knew by heart. When she finished, the room was silent for 3 full seconds before the applause started. The bill passed committee the next day. Karen's name was never mentioned, but everyone in the room knew exactly whose playbook had inspired the legislation. Back in Pinecrest, the changes were smaller but deeper. The annual Thanksgiving block party happened again that November. Lauren's turn to host. But this time the neighborhood voted to split the cost evenly. No single person carried the load. The place cards were handwritten by the kids, each name spelled exactly as requested. No jokes allowed. When Lauren arrived, her seat simply read, "Lauren Hayes, thank you." She sat down, felt the ordinary paper under her fingers, and realized for the first time that she wasn't the outcast anymore. She was just Lauren, the woman who had reminded everyone they could be more than the rules written on a clipboard. Karen tried one last comeback. She created a new neighborhood watch group on the next street over, calling it True Pinecrest Values. The flyer featured her photo with the same pearl necklace and the slogan, "Protecting Standards Since 2014. 3 houses signed up. The rest of the street politely declined. Within a month, the group dissolved when no one showed up to the first meeting. Karen's social media, once filled with perfectly staged photos of her perfect lawn, went silent. The last post was a vague quote about toxic people who destroy community spirit. Nobody liked it. The algorithm moved on. Lauren kept receiving messages from strangers. A teacher in Texas whose HOA banned her vegetable garden sent a photo of her new raised beds and the caption, "I tore up my own fine notice the day your story went viral. Thank you." A veteran in Ohio whose board tried to remove his flag posted a video of the flagpole he had just installed. Permanent, regulation, and completely unapologetic. Each story reminded Lauren that the $850,000 had never really been about money. It had been about the moment she stopped trying to buy belonging from people who had already decided she didn't deserve it. One warm evening in late May, the doorbell rang again. This time it was the new family who had bought Karen's old house. The dad held a bottle of wine. The mom carried a plate of homemade cookies. Their 10-year-old daughter clutched a drawing of a bright red door with the words, "Thank you" for the red door written in crayon. They had read every article. They had seen the place card photo. "We almost didn't buy the house because of the reputation," the dad said. "Then we read what you did and realized this was exactly the neighborhood we wanted to raise kids in." Lauren invited them in, poured the wine, and listened as they described the changes they were already making. Solar panels visible and proud. A treehouse in the backyard that would definitely violate the old 2-inch grass rule. She laughed until her sides hurt. The kind of laugh that comes only after years of holding your breath. Later that night, alone on her patio again, Lauren opened the old HOA group chat one last time. The messages were still there, fossilized in digital amber. Karen's final post before the recall vote. "We must protect our standards." The replies had once been unanimous praise. Now the thread sat unread. The participants scattered or silent. Lauren screenshot the place card photo one more time, attached it to a new post she would never actually send, and typed the words she had waited 5 years to say. "Standards are fine. People are better." Then she deleted the screenshot, closed the app, and never opened it again. The place card still hangs in her office, but now it shares space with new mementos. The crayon drawing from the new neighbor's daughter. The thank you note from the state assemblywoman. The tiny plaque the Block Association gave her at the summer cookout for reminding us that community is built by people, not bylaws. Visitors still ask about the framed calligraphy. Lauren still tells the story, but she adds a new ending every time. "It wasn't about the money," she says. "It was never about the money. It was about the moment they handed me the truth in gold letters, and I finally believed them. Then I left to find the people who saw me differently." She gestures at the photos on her wall, the new playground full of laughing kids, the solar panels gleaming on roofs up and down the street, the red doors and rainbow flags, and vegetable gardens that would have earned citations under the old regime. "Best $850,000 I never spent," she always finishes, and every single visitor nods like they understand exactly what she means. Sometimes late At night, Lauren still drives through the cul-de-sac. Windows down, music low. The string lights twinkle year-round now. Lawns are different lengths. Kids play tag across lawns without fear of pink notices. Elderly neighbors sit on porches without worrying about citation thresholds. And somewhere far away, in whatever subdivision Karen landed in, another clipboard is probably being sharpened, another set of pearls being polished, another outcast being quietly measured for size. But in Pinecrest Estates, the rules finally belong to the people who live there, not the person who once tried to own them. Lauren pulls into her driveway, cuts the engine, and sits for a moment listening to the quiet hum of a neighborhood that finally feels like home. She glances at the framed place card through the window, raises an imaginary glass, and whispers the same toast she gave herself the night everything changed, to the outcasts who rewrite the story. May we all find the courage to tear up the paperwork and walk away. Then she steps inside, kicks off her heels, and leaves the lights on for whoever might need them next. The story doesn't end with revenge. It ends with freedom. And in Pinecrest Estates, freedom looks a lot like string lights that stay up all year, doors painted any color you damn well please, and a community that finally learned the difference between rules and respect. If you're still sitting at a table that calls you outcast, maybe it's time to stand up, pick up the envelope, and start tearing. The confetti might just be the most beautiful thing you ever make.